I was fascinated that you interviewed someone like Gavin Polone, who had a pretty rough reputation because he was a go-getter. But he was talking very honest about. I run into this all the time. Fans don't know that so-and-so star only gets this much because they figure Tom Cruise is getting $50 million. He must get $1 million. But you'd be surprised. A lot of big star names, they've never once received a $1 million payday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
But Gavin Polone, back in the days, he was doing all these big deals, and his total client list in that year probably made $100 million or whatever. So they figure he's super rich or whatever. But not so. He was just doing the job.
He was doing the job, and it's like, granted, he's sharing his side of the story, and there's always three sides to every story. Mm-hmm. That's always the way it works. But I think the thing I love most about the podcast is I don't know what it is about what I am or when I sit down across from somebody, but I feel like they feel safe.
Absolutely.
And they feel that they can say anything. And a lot of times, many podcasts, many guests cry about a lot of things that have happened in their life, or personally or professionally. And many times, I'm embarrassed to say, maybe not embarrassed, I cry a lot of times because it's very, you want to get there when I sit down with you like this, I'm hoping that we have that connection. And I always say what I love about the podcast that I don't have, that mainly we all only have in our relationships with our people who are reciprocal loves, is when you're with somebody that you love, and it doesn't matter if you're, if you're gay or straight or whatever, when you sit down across from them and you have those conversations, the world stops. There are no bills. There's no problems because you have that wonderful connection where you're connected and it's there, and it's like,
and you care about their story.
And you care about their story. They care about yours. And before you know it, it's like 90 minutes later with the love of your life or whatever, the conversation is over and you hug each other and you're like, wow, this was just, where did the time go? And even if you're with, look, we've all had those situations I was sharing the other day. You start off with somebody you're in a relationship with, and the beginning of the conversation, they're angry at you, and like you go 4 hours, and you finally get to the point where, oh, it's wonderful, this is wonderful, the next 2 hours are wonderful, and then right before you go to bed or this magic moment, he says something, and you go right back to the place you were in the beginning, and you spend 6 hours, but the point is that you had the connection. And, I've had situations where I start an interview, like Kevin Farley, Chris Farley's brother, where, I sit down with him beforehand. I say, look, I'd love to talk about something in the documentary that wasn't covered. People need to know how Chris passed away and what he got involved. I don't want to talk about that. Well, I think it's really important that people know, because people know that success takes you to, no, please don't go there. Like, okay, I'll do the best I can. And my cold open, I did, like, it just comes to me. The cold opens, as you probably know, and maybe some people don't, I don't know what I'm going to say. I just go. And
really?
I know, I have no idea. I sit down, I look at them. And so I did my cold open for Chris, and when I finished the cold open, he said, I can't do this. I can't do this. And he walked out.
Is that what happened? I heard it 2 days ago.
Yeah, and I went after him.
I thought he was so moved by the whole the remembrance of his brother that he couldn't do it.
He was, but it was a part of like just reliving the whole thing again, and which was odd that and I saw him later, and I was glad to know that he really liked it and he enjoyed it when he came back, and we had a great time. So I think that's what it is. It's about the connection. It's about these things that I can bring to people that they wouldn't ordinarily see, and if they can learn something from it and gain something from it, one of the biggest things I always say is that I love managing. Managing is amazing. You can just work with somebody, and with your talent and their talent, you can just do some of the most amazing things, from getting somebody in a position to get Saturday Night Live, or a feature film with Tom Cruise, or, I mean, just to tell you something amazing story to me, it's incredible, and it show anybody that anything is possible. I represent this comedian actor named Kirk Fox. Now,
great tennis player, I heard.
Great tennis player. He was a tennis pro.
Yeah, I heard he's got a wicked backhand.
And he did a lot of movies, did a lot of television parts, but not like, did the Tonight Show, but not like, he would say, I'm not lighting the world on fire, I'm okay, but I'm not a household name. I'm no, and he got a role in the pilot for CBS Rush Hour, the remake of the movie that's being the television show. And it was with Bill Lawrence, the guy who produced Scrubs and created Scrubs and also Undateable. And this guy, Jeff Engel, the producer who was at NBC when I was there and when Whitney and I went in and she sold Whitney. And it was one line in an hour pilot. Now, for an actor, one line is like, it's an embarrassment. Right. It's like, you're like, well, what am I going to go in there for one line? Now, I'm not saying that what Kirk said to me, because he's a great guy, but you'd have to be losing your mind if you didn't think that anybody who said, hey, I got to go in for one line, what is this? But he went in, and he did the pilot. And one thing Carol Leifer said on one of my podcasts when she asked Larry David and Seinfeld why they hired her as a writer with no experience, they told her, you were an easy hang. And so you go into any situation, no matter how little it is, and I forget who it was, it escapes me whether it was James Dean or some actor long ago, said there's no such thing as small parts, only small actors. And so the whole philosophy of Kirk, go in, he's in a lot of background scenes, throw out some jokes, say something to the producers, say, hey, what about this here, what about that there? He comes out of the pilot, he has like 25 lines, he's in the closing scene of the pilot. And I just got the call today for him to do the first 6 episodes of the show. So now he's in a position to be a series regular, he's making serious money on the thing, all from one line. And it goes back to that thing long ago, before probably I was born, where Shelley Winters, who probably the youngest of your viewers would remember from the Poseidon Adventure, but she was a great actress from the 40s and the 50s, and she won, I think, 2 Academy Awards, and her agent said, hey, this director wants to see you audition. And she said, well, audition? I got 2 Academy. No, he wants to see you audition. I'm not fucking going, just please go to the audition, whatever. And she goes to the audition, and the director's sitting behind the desk with a cigar, and he's got his resumes and pictures, and she comes in for her appointment and her read. And he's like, are you going to, I'm ready, you can go, whatever. And she reaches into her pocketbook and pulls out the 2 Academy Awards and slams them on his desk and says, here's my fucking audition. And so the point being is there's all these stories of how people handle certain things and how they want, if they have a sense of entitlement or they don't. And I think throughout these stories of these executives where you're a fly on the wall, you kind of see if you're in the business or even if you aren't in the business. It doesn't even matter if you're working as a drugstore manager or a nurse or starting your own practice in dentistry or whatever it is, or you're an athlete, it all comes down to the same thing. It all comes down to the lessons about the navigation, the work ethic, how to be a good person, how to treat people with respect, and how to be, as you shared with me here, as I say, undeniable. And if you can figure out that, then you're going to be in great shape.
I know you love these kind of success stories, and certainly your clients have a lot of them. But you had a hand in prepping a lot of your people. Do you try to, in Kirk's case, have you been sort of keeping him thinking positively, or that was his own?
Well, Kirk is an amazing case because he has great relationships with people throughout the years. And he has great relationships with people like Jeff Engold and Bill Lawrence, and the director happened to be John Turteltaub. I think if you're an artist, and again I talk about relationships, and you just run into people and you talk
He's
to
friends
people.
with Dr. Phil, isn't he?
Yeah. And so
Intense.
things happen where people think of you more.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to claim and say like, hey, you know, I'm responsible for Rush Hour, I'm not. It's an artist's relationships and how they are known and how they're perceived, and then people think of them. Yes, I'm the conduit to helping put it together or make a deal or organizing the auditions or reminding him that, you know, how great he is, you know, even if he doesn't want to be reminded of it.
Yeah.
And letting him know that he can accomplish anything, he can do anything. A similar thing happened to me with another client who, you know, hadn't probably done a sitcom in a little while. Cheri Oteri from Saturday Night Live got a call from NBC that they want her in a pilot. Again, it was very little lines. Nobody who's been on SNL for 5 years and been in, you know, 10 movies, you know, just was in Adam Sandler's movie Grown Ups or whatever, and you don't want to go into a thing where you're come in and be a guest star and do whatever, even if the role's great. But Cheri, true to form, we talked about it, she went in, I just said, just go in, just be who you are, great, you're going to blow them away and great things are going to happen. She did the table read, and for those of you in your audience who don't know, the table read is where all the writers and friends of people and executives sit around and they watch the actors and actresses read from the script around the table, their roles, with the stage direction. And Cheri, you know, killed it at the table read. I got the call the next day that the network was making her an offer to be a series regular on the show.
Well, she's terrifically talented, though, isn't she?
Yeah, but you know, and she is terrifically talented, but the fact is that doesn't always mean that you're going to make it, because artists, and not just artists, everybody in the business can get in their own way. And
see, but here's the thing. I interview a lot of, I mean, even in the past, because I've always been interested in, like, stars who had better days, but they may come back, like some of those guys in Ray Donovan, or as long as they're willing to, things come back around, you know. But one of the things I find so interesting to listen to your podcast, you interview a lot of different people in different areas of behind the scenes, but you'd be amazed how many of these older actors, they change from the ICMCAAs to the smaller agency thinking, oh, you know, well, they're not doing anything for me, so I'll go to, but it seems like what you do is you keep these guys in a positive attitude, your clients. I mean, there's no point in having a big attitude when, in truth, you want something new to happen. And these guys are talented enough that if they get in the room, if they have a good attitude, you know, that something is likely to happen.
But a lot of them don't want to go in the room. Like, you look at the show Ray Donovan. I mean, look at the actors. I mean,
Stephen Bauer.
I mean, if you call those guys and say, listen, I'd like you to go on audition for this, do you think they're doing handstands across the room? I got a fucking audition? I mean, look, can't they just watch one of 80 things I've done?
Right.
But they don't. They put them through the paces, and they normally make them do it. And so the reason why they want to go to a smaller company is probably to get a little more attention and to feel like a bigger fish in a small pond. And there's some great smaller
agencies. They don't have the juice, though, do they? Because I don't know. I get the impression a lot of these actors want to get back into the big-time movies and so forth. Although TV's, quite frankly, I think TV's better than movies right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're great at what you do, it's going to be hard to keep you down. Look.
Again, it's undeniable, right? I mean, if you got the goods.
But there's certain things where.
But you got to make them believe that they still got it.
I hope they don't mind me using them as examples, but I'm going to. Look, Andy Dick, there isn't any frame of any television show or movie that Andy Dick is in that is boring. There isn't any frame where you look at it and say, boy, this guy sucks. I mean, the guy is a human highlight film of comedy.
He's like Andy Kaufman. He's on another planet.
Yeah, but he doesn't work that often. Why doesn't he work? Because off screen, there's difficult things you have to deal with when you deal with Andy Dick. And if he were sitting here, he would be the first one to admit it. Tom Arnold. If you were to watch films of Tom Arnold, and especially dramatic work, you would be blown away. Well, why doesn't he work as much as he should? Well, you know, it's the reputation of how things have been in the past and how things are, and sometimes people, it affects people. Wesley Snipes, the guy was the biggest movie star in the world. Did he suddenly become bad at what he does? No. It's just that things happen. Oh, tax evasion, this, that. And people just...
Yeah, I think it might be hard. It might be too much baggage or whatever.
Yeah, so people hear things, and it affects how they are and how things go. You know, like you said, I represent Jay Mohr. He's one of the few guys, he can do anything. He can go in the room and get any job. And you know, look, Clint Eastwood hired him as Matt Damon's brother on Hereafter. Why would Clint Eastwood book a host of Last Comic Standing to be opposite Matt Damon?
When he could have anybody else.
Could have anyone, he could make any call, and no one's going to say no to Clint Eastwood. Because Jay went in the room and he blew people away. How did he get a role opposite Tom Cruise? People would pay money, write checks to get that role. He'd never really done anything.
Right.
He got it because he was 10 times better than anybody else. And Cameron Crowe saw it. And that's how if everybody operated that way and stayed out of their own way, you're never going to have a problem. Ever. Yes, there's certain things that don't make sense in life. If Tom Brady were traded to the New York Giants, the guy who beat him twice in the Super Bowl would be the backup quarterback.
Right.
Now, why is that? Head to head, they've gone together, and one guy's 2-0 and one guy's 0-2. But it's the consistency of anybody in any business over time. So what? You beat me twice. Show me your record over time. And it's the same with anybody. I don't care if you're a 7-Eleven manager or if you're a partner at a law firm. Show me your track record over time. And you're going to have ups and downs. But if you can remain consistent, you're always going to work. You're always going to be in a situation where you can work and do well. And if you can consistently be better than other people, then that's the way. Look, you have 2 people working with you today. Okay? They're here. One person is the first time working for you, another person's worked here before. So what? You know, if they keep going the way they're doing and do a great job just how they're doing it, they're going to stay doing these fucking jobs for the rest of their lives if they want to. But if they want to go to the next level of the business, they got to figure out a way to be 10 times better than everybody else and say, hey, I got to move up to this level. I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, I'm going to go there. And they'll just keep moving. And that's just the way it works. And I'm kind of a hypocrite because, look, you know, I don't represent Tom Cruise. I don't represent Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler. I mean, I represent great people in my life, and I was in Montreal, and Dave Chappelle was gracious enough to invite me to a show and backstage, and I spent an hour with him, and you know, just sitting with him for an hour, just like hanging out. And this is somebody I managed for 8 years, and you know, whenever you're around somebody who's a genius, it's an affirmation to know, hey, this is the way your life's supposed to be. On my side, in life, not everything's fair. If Dave Chappelle were sitting here, he would not claim to be the hardest working man in show business. But geniuses can work a certain way and make things happen. And he's a guy, he can wake up if he wants at the crack of 2. If he wants to smoke a joint all afternoon, he can do it. If he doesn't, he doesn't have to. He can do anything and walk on anywhere and be brilliant. But that's a very select group of people.
But even he said to you, how did you know?
That's right. He said, how did I know?
He was the chosen one.
I just know sometimes when I meet people or I see people. I recently met a guy about a year and a half ago. I take a meeting with this guy. He comes in. He's 3 feet 8 inches tall. A little person, Brad Williams. I meet him. There's something about him that I love. I feel something. I just feel something can happen. He goes over his goals with me. It's all, these are the kind of things as a manager you love, and what you were talking about before of how in the podcast, how I don't really know, I hope, but when I meet with an artist, I have to know. And he says, I have 3 goals. I said, what are they? He says, I want to book a sitcom pilot. I want my own radio gig somewhere in a top 10 market. And I want my own hour special on a major network. And within a year, he had shot a sitcom pilot, had his own radio show in San Francisco, and shot the highest rated hour special that Showtime has had this year. And those are the moments where you meet with an artist and you sit down with them and you're like, it feels great because with their talent and your belief in them and your tenacity and turning no's into yeses, you can make anything happen. And those are the things that are exciting about the business, and that's what's exciting to anybody who's listening or watching this out there. It's like, it's just anything is, it's possible. It's like, it's just people just tend to stay in their own bubble. Like I've had interns who worked for me and assistants. I have this system that I tell people all the time. Reach out to as many people as possible, write a killer cover letter, put it in a FedEx envelope, and hand deliver it. Pretend you're a messenger. Everybody opens a FedEx.
Right.
And certain people you'll talk to, well, did you do that to the places you wanted to work? Did you identify all of them and do it? Yeah, man, I have 58. I delivered 58 in the last 2 days. Wow. Oh, that's fantastic. And then you'll talk to another intern. Hey, did you do that? Yeah, I did. Oh, great. How many did you give? 2. I'm like, well, I don't mean to burst your bubble, but the person last semester sent out 58. You sent out 2. So who's got a better chance of getting a job? You with 2 or the person who sent out 58? That person has 56 more chances to get a gig than you do because you didn't exhaust everything. And I think that's the thing that's missing from a lot of things and a lot of people, is just keep going and going and going. And like I said, I'm a hypocrite a lot of times. There's only so many hours in the day. I don't claim to be great at time management. I do these podcasts in my spare time, and it's like I honestly, I am fried. I don't know a lot of times how to get everything done the way I want to get it done the right way, and I tend to work late at night, and that tends to shorten your lifespan. It shortens your relationships. You don't have great relationships when, a wonderful woman in your life wants to go out to dinner and you're still working at a contract at 9 o'clock at night. So, but as Dr. Phil would say, no one can play the role in your life except for you. I'm playing it. I know the mistakes I've made. I know the things that I'm doing that I'm proud of. And I know the things that I've done that I'm not proud of. And hopefully, my only hope is that I can, somehow, in a positive way, help. You're here to help as many people as you can. And that's the greatest feeling in the world, that somebody like yourself is listening. And I mean, you're so smart and you have so much, I'm not just shitting on myself, but you're so much smarter than me. I'm like,
how about that?
But you're doing something that's really, really special, and you're listening to these things, and these things are like 2 hours long, and you've listened to over 100 of these things. That's 200 hours.
Well, you created a car accident, you know what I'm saying? So I have to make time for it. I heard that recently. I hadn't heard that before, because I guess you bring that up in that particular way from time to time. But I heard it recently, and I thought, wow, that's what you got to create a reason or.
Got to create a problem.
Well, that's what you did, I have to make time to do it. Because, people tell me, because my stuff is long, but if the stars are willing to sit down, they want to do 2 hours because they think, oh, this is worth it, that this guy's really listening or he really did his research. Then I'm prepared for more, you know what I'm saying?
Well, you should be. My God, it took you 7 hours to set up this monstrosity here. This is incredible.